Hello, my friends. Happy to see you here today. It's the end of the day, and we're at Myohonji Temple again. And I wanted to shoot our first Neigong training video. So we'll be putting out new types of training, but I think it will be very similar to what you've already been learning in the Tao Foundation and the Inner Alchemy Meditation class. I think when we explore this idea of Neigong that we find within the internal martial arts, specifically we can think of as Hsing Yi, Tai Chi, and PaKua. Okay? And maybe perhaps when we really think about martial or a kind of combat art, people use the term Hsing Yi Chuan, PaKua Zhang, Tai Chi Chuan. So Zhang means a palm, PaKua palm art. Hsing Yi Chuan, Tai Chi Chuan. Chuan means a fist art. But these are more, perhaps we would think of these as a system or an art. If we really trace the history of these arts, we can directly trace them back to Taoist practices of Daoyin and also the Neidan Shu, Neidan, inner elixir. We think of in English, we say like internal alchemy meditation or the Taoist meditation practices. We call these usually Neidan. Dan means elixir. Okay, so this, if we start to be more familiar Chinese terms such as Dan Tian, Dan, again we find this word Dan, elixir. Oftentimes a very old term or more traditional term for Taoist practice, sometimes even they just say lian dan, so to practice dan or to train dan. So this term dan means a rarefied inner energy or an inner energy that we've cultivated over time and purified. So all of these terms are really, we can think, from a same school or from a similar theoretical base. So this, for example, we have the 5 elements, we have a yin-yang, and we also have the 8 trigrams. So like a PaKua, this means 8 trigrams. So these are really Taoist philosophical theories or Taoist cosmology, we can think like this. And so those theoretical and cosmological frameworks form the basis when they organize these systems. So you'll learn more as we practice together. And I think I have some basis or basic knowledge in theory. I really more like to practice. And so I really like to experience practice. Okay, and so we will learn things in the beginning that maybe you would think of as a Qigong. This word Neigong is, I think, really has a different meaning or definition depending upon the teacher, or even depending upon a level of practice. And so I would like for you to not really think, for example, Qigong is something different from Neigong. It's a different practice. It's all something same. And it's all something that just depends on the level of where you are. So for example, Qigong, maybe very, very traditional view of this term, doesn't mean anything to do with movement. This means more actually like cultivating breath training, and also training and working with mind and breath to try to develop qi energy internally. But now in the West, especially in Europe, in America, Canada, Mexico, all of these countries, South America, Argentina, Brazil, this word Qigong is very, very prevalent. And, people think of as some movement art. Yeah, sometimes some different kind of, we see many kinds of movement patterns, many many, I don't want to be silly, do something silly when I demonstrate. Many kinds of movement patterns. And some are from the Taoist school, but really we can find Qigong from the Shaolin school, which is Buddhist. And many kinds of these movements people just created in a contemporary sense. Okay? And so we'll be exploring these in this class, and this is a little preparatory talk. I've studied Hsing Yi, Tai Chi, and PaKua, but to be completely honest, I, from a very young age, fell in love with the Hsing Yi practice. And a lot of people think of Hsing Yi as a more martial or a more almost karate-like in its appearance, very stiff, I guess, or very using a force. But I learned a Hsing Yi system that was very soft, very, I think I would say it's very Taoist, very soft. And the Hsing Yi system that I learned really combines elements of PaKua within the footwork or within the way that we use the hands. So again, I like to look at truth. I like to try to get down to the very bare and simplistic understanding of these arts. And that was what I wanted to begin with today. Now, if we look at, especially we can find in PaKua and Hsing Yi, but we can also find in Tai Chi, this idea of 4 principal powers. Okay? That at the very, very basis of any of these movements, we find 4 principal powers. And these powers are sometimes, or most commonly, termed the power of rising or lifting power, raising power, rising power. We have the power which is called spiraling power, or often in Hsing Yi we call drilling. So like a screw, like a spiraling, a twisting power. Okay, so rising, drilling. We'll have an overturning, or we can even use this term rotation. So just see how I'm rotating my forearm here? This is a rotation power. Okay, and then a descending or a falling power. And so in a lot of basic training, especially in the arts of Hsing Yi and both PaKua, and when we get in the teachers who are trying to teach you to develop inner strength, Neigong, inner power, they really emphasize these 4 principal movements, but also these are energies. These are kinetic, or a kind of a kinesiology, a type, very specific type of body movement. Okay, also an energy. Okay, and now this is both in Hsing Yi and PaKua. This is a very principal movement we're going to use today as a warm-up. Okay, and we're going to take our hands first, and I want you first, let's just practice grasping. Okay, now you can't feel my body, but it's very important that we learn to unify our forearm, the movements within our forearm and our hand, with our intercostal space and intercostal muscles. So different exercises we do, we're going to really try to train that. Okay, now be sure you have a wide enough stance here. Okay, and this, if you look, if I kind of squat down here, this is my toe line and my knee line here. We've got almost, I have two fist distances. Now some very traditional teachers would say to use only one. I'm a little flexible, so I take a wider stance, but make sure you're not doing something like this. We're training our leg strength here. We're connecting the lower part of our body with the upper part of our body. And this is very important in this training. So let's take a minute to really feel your stance here. Be aware of your sacral bone and your lumbar. We slightly tuck the sacral bone. The knees are held above the top of the feet. We don't ever go do something where we're leaning back, because this will damage the knees. And just feel, let's shift our weight. I want you to feel your weightedness here. For those of you that are advanced or have a lot of experience with internal martial arts, we're going to begin from the very beginning. Okay, we're not going to try to do something advanced here. So really beginning with our stance, okay? Now, if we look at yin and yang, the bottom part of our body is yin, upper part of our body is a yang. What this can mean here, in very, very simplistic view, is that we allow more strength and heaviness to be experienced in the lower part of our body. And we have the upper part, we try to have more relaxation, but not weakness. This is expansion, absence of tension. Okay. Now we'll take our hands here. When I was learning Hsing Yi, this was really one of our fundamental warm-ups. We're going to concentrate on your pinky here. We're going to squeeze and go through each finger. And then my thumb will lock behind my index finger. So you see how this knuckle kind of pokes out. Okay, we're going to do that. And as we do that, I'm contracting my abdomen, tucking my sacral bone, and squeezing my intercostal muscles, closing the space between the ribs, the intercostal space. Okay? And I lower my body down. Okay? Then I come up like this. Okay? Now, you can hear a sound. This is my tendon. I'm actually moving the tendons in my hand and arm. This is a kind of Neigong skill. Over time, you can do different things with your bones or your tendons. And if I were to grab you, if we were able to have a physical contact, I can grab use a lot of strength with my hands here, because I can contract very quickly. I can contract my tendons. And this skill developed, I think, from all of this training, but really from this training here. And importance here, this is your yin musculature, the yin side of your arm. Your intercostals here, this is also the yin side of your arm. And so you're learning to use this musculature here also, and that's a real hallmark of the Taoist soft style martial arts that use Neigong training of Hsing Yi, Tai Chi, and PaKua. That they use this part of the body here. Okay, let's do some repetitions. Breathe naturally. See, now this would be, we talk to the rotation power, overturning power. See, I'm not moving my elbow. My elbow is staying here, closing and opening like this. Very important, kind of basic skill, basic practice here. Now to open this up, we'll relax and then make a fist. Okay, and so this is like an opposite power here. Okay, again, this is that overturning, rotating power. This is also descending power. Okay, you see from the side here, going like that. I'm not moving my elbow. This is an opposite movement here. This is the principal movement in the horse form of Hsing Yi. Now, we're going to take this grasping power that we just practiced, okay, and we're going to go train the right and left side, but we're going to try to incorporate all four of these elements and understand this is a power. This Neigong, sometimes it can mean inner training, can also have a nuance, mean inner energetic strength training, or inner power training, inner strength training. Okay? And so this is not muscular strength, it's a strength unifying the mind, the body, and the breath. Strength also using the kinetic waves, like from the foot to the knee, to the hip, to the intercostal, to the shoulder, to the elbow, to the hand. Okay, these interconnected trains of motion within the body. And in order to develop that, we have to really get down to some very, very simplistic exercises. And that's why a lot of people cannot develop real Neigong power, because they don't have the patience to repeat the same thing again and again and again and again. Okay, so let's get in here. Okay, take our hands. If you look at me from the side here, okay, like this. I'm going to take, this will be your left, my right. I'm going to squeeze here, making a fist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pulling all the way down to below my navel, and I'm coming out to the side here. Okay, this is, we talked about this spiraling power. So I'm expressing this spiraling power here with the opposite hand. This is the downward or descending power with the opposite hand. So this is like a fulcrum, or like a kind of a leveraging. We have a pulley and 2 ropes. Okay, and it can create, you can pull up a lot of weight. And we're doing that with our body. So for example, my left, your left, my right is pushing in a line with this opposite side. Okay, see that? Now here I'll grasp and I'll come down. Okay, and so here's the rising, the drilling. I turn over as I grab, and then I fall or I descend. Okay, and so these are those 4 powers. You see? And you be aware of your center line here, and you see I'm crossing over my center line, coming from this side to the other side, then I'm on the horizontal plane, coming over, arching back to the starting side, okay? Like that. This is a principal movement, and we're going to do a few different drills today to train this. So many benefits you get from learning these 4 powers and training this repetitively. Breathe deeply and naturally, centering in your abdomen, your dantian, your root, your core. There's a principal movement we're repeating here. Slowly, slowly. Now, another important principle of the internal martial arts in Neigong is continuous motion. We don't stop and start. This takes a long time to kind of figure out how to do that. Okay, now let's reverse. We're going to keep the rear hand open, and we're going to make a fist. Okay, we're kind of, this is a little more complex here. Okay, so we'll make a fist, and we'll draw this hand back open-handed. Okay, so we're just reversing what we're doing. This still trains these powers. Okay, we have rising power, have a drilling or spiraling power, but we're emphasizing this drilling and spiraling by closing our fist. And again, we close from the small finger. You don't close with the index finger, and this activates the yin line. Okay. Here's the overturning, rotating, descending elbow, unmovable elbow principle. Okay. So here, like we did in the beginning, we squeeze, open hand coming out. Then we can reverse. Okay. Now important, you see I'm really paying attention to my center line here, and I'm moving one hand over the other. Okay, like that. May seem repetitive. This is how you get it. This is how you train. Add a little more speed. Now slow it down. Really emphasize. Rotate down. Now, a little bigger, and we're going to, instead of separating the hands, let's move the hands together. Grasping, lifting, spiraling, overturning, and descending, the 4 powers. Raising up, lifting, spiraling, overturning, opening, and descending down. I think it's getting dark, but I hope the camera will catch the light. Might have to move locations. I'll check in a minute. Thank you all for being patient. I learned to use these cameras. It's fun, and really happy to contribute to your training. Okay, let's go back. Okay. Emphasizing your forearm. And let's inhale up. Bring your feet together. Exhale down, sinking down. Inhale, exhale, settle down. Inhale, spiral, exhale, sinking down. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, spiral, exhale, sinking down. Okay, now we're going to transition. Okay, we're going to continue training these 4 powers. We're going to do a little bit more complicated movement, and this movement is oftentimes called the single palm change in PaKua. It's used in both PaKua and Hsing Yi, and it incorporates those principal movements. A lot of times a single palm change will look something like this. This kind of very moving. Like this. Okay. We're not going to do this kind of complicated movement. But I just little demonstration for you. Okay. But we are going to practice this in the same way I learned right in the beginning of my training. And we're going to use this stance here where we learn to activate the inside of the thigh here. This is your yin musculature as opposed to your outer thigh, which is a yang muscle. We use these to help root And we're going to practice this single palm change. Okay, so take your hands, just link your hands together, touch your thumbs, centering, breathing in and out, relax.